Number 81 in motion. He tucks it away. Number 34 through the middle.
Will the owner of a white convertible license number J58B42 please return to your car immediately? You are parked in an emergency exit.
Ball on the 20-yard line. Number 12 with a man in motion. With the carry. Puts on the juke. Number 57 brings him down at the 18.
When they sat down and discussed the running game this week, I'm sure they never thought it would go this way.
Welcome everybody to Sports Goofs 67.
Getting nicer and nicer every day.
I know it's gotten better. Look, you can actually see who the heck is yapping on the corner there. Can you see that, guys? Look at that. Yeah,
I have to see this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we got Madden NFL 2002 in the background. For those of you who want to see that, the Bills versus the Broncos. And you know, it's getting better every day. So, or every week and all that stuff. So I'm glad things of quality is going up and up and up, but we were so far down it could only go up from there. I mean, there's nowhere lower to go. We were hitting rock bottom with regards to our technical prowess. So how are you guys doing?
A lot better, thanks to you guys.
Yeah, we just gave Andrew a, I don't know, crash course pep talk? I don't even know what you would call it.
I would call it I would call it all of those.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, if you don't know by this point, I don't know what to tell you unless you're new to the show, in which case, hi, welcome to the show. But the three of us went to law school together for 2 wonderful years. Well, I would hope that you think it was wonderful, at least being along with me, because, I don't know. Man, I'm so depressed right now. Anyway, I'm taking the bar. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm trying to become a big boy and have an Esquire behind my name. So I'm on pins and needles on a constant basis. So these guys who have been there and survived are kind of talking me through it in the hopes of making me a little bit less of a nervous wreck.
Oh yeah, and well, we'll try and guide you there, good buddy.
It would be very much appreciated.
Yeah, Charles and I need to get away from the monotony of work and horrible Zoom calls, according to Charles.
They are just terrible. They're just terrible.
And for the first time in a long time, we have sponsorship back on the screen. You can get Age of Wonders, Planetfall Invasions on your PS4, your Xbox One, your PC, and a Mac if you're into that. They got an expansion out. It's a video game. I can actually get it on my PC and it won't explode. So come join us for that. I don't know if I don't know if you have to pay for it, if it's free to play. Who knows? But it's there. So thank you, Paradox, for supporting the stream. You guys have made a grave error, but we thank you anyways. Yeah. So I tested it out for the first time yesterday at our baseball broadcast, the St. Louis Cardinals versus the New York Mets. And if you have to see any broadcast of our baseball games, yesterday's broadcast between the Mets and the Cardinals was the one to watch because, let's see, we had ejections, we had an inside the park home run, we had the Polo Grounds. We had a major comeback, and that's not even that's not even all of it. It is, and that was all within 9 innings, by the way. It was insane, and there was legitimate beef between the two teams. So, and I think I put Steve Lyons in the back of a trunk in Shreveport, Louisiana, as part of it too. So. Yeah, things got weird. Things got strange. I felt things in my groin, and I was completely happy about it. So go watch that one, and the other ones too, and the people who have been watching it, because we've done some numbers with it, and I'm really glad because there is no baseball happening right now, and we don't know when that's going to happen because the MLB owners are trying to F over the players right now. You know? They just are. So we might talk about that. I wanted to start with the NBA's plan because, Andrew, I know you're not a basketball guy, but your town, Orlando, Florida, is about to become the center of the basketball universe.
You're goddamn right.
So the NBA and the Players Association have approved a plan to shift over the NBA season to Orlando, Florida. They will restart the season by the end of July. Every team except the Portland Trailblazers approved of this plan. And 22 teams will continue the season. That will be 9 teams in the Eastern Conference and 13 teams in the Western Conference. So the Miami Heat have made it. Andrew, your Orlando Magic have made it too. So
I would hope they would, because how embarrassing would that be if you are the home team in essence and you aren't even good enough to make the playoffs in your own home city. That'd be kind of embarrassing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and let me just point this out though.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time since 2017, Orlando is guaranteed to have a national champion.
I guess.
Oh, I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
But what if it's Toronto that repeats? Because they're Canadian.
Ooh. Well, a champion shall be declared
In Orlando, Florida.
Well, I guess no. Actually, we would have been. God damn it! I just confused my. That was a very long and terrible attempt at making a UCF national championship reference.
Yeah.
You
created a sports paradox there, bud.
Yeah, and Paradox made Age of Wonders, everybody. So thank you for the tie-in, Charles. I don't know if you meant for that to happen, but it happened.
The universe works in mysterious ways.
So, and by the way, on the top of the screen there on the right side, our next simulation, our college baseball game of the week, we'll have 2 teams fighting for Andrew's love. The FIU Panthers versus the UCF Knights. Both artists formerly known as Golden, will be taking
that is very true.
on each other. So that's going to be fun.
You made my point for me. I was going to say both teams were golden at the time.
Yeah, well, you could feel golden, Andrew, according to Senor Grossman.
That is true. Golden Panther. That's another inside FIU law student joke.
Yeah.
If you want to get that joke, please go and move to Miami, Florida. Pay about $20,000 a year for 3 years, and go through the slog that is law school and eventually the bar, and you will know exactly what we're talking about.
So, Andrew, have you seen the plans for the NBA and where they're going to hold this?
Yes, they're all going to be right in my my old neck of the woods over at Wide World of Sports, if I remember correctly.
Right. So, the mouse has been appeased, which I'm sure was the prime concern for the NBA with regards to starting this over. ESPN drives the NBA's popularity, as we all know, and they're going to have a good old time broadcasting those games, although I haven't seen how the broadcasting format's going to be. I'm sure Turner Sports, which is NBA on TNT, and the best freaking NBA or sports analysis show, I don't know, ever, probably. There's no way those guys are not going to be in on this.
I think they would have to. I think they have a contract with the NBA.
Right. So Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, Shaq, and Ernie Johnson. We can't have a season without those guys.
That would be very sad and disappointing if there wasn't any of those guys.
So, Charles, what are your thoughts on the season resuming? Do you think it's going to get – are we going to get a level of basketball that might actually be better than what we've seen on a normal basis?
Okay. Starting this off, what hurts it a little bit is you didn't have the typical mid-season before the deadline trades that went down. So a franchise can be easily shaped by these kind of mid-season trades, either for the current season or for the following years to come. Also, there's not going to be any of those international buyouts that happen. The Heat are very familiar with Chris Anderson when he got picked up when he was over playing in China. Those help bring in depth because I know they're reliant on the G League, but sometimes the G League guys aren't the complete picture. They can get the offense going on, but you don't get a G League guy who can play defense, because if he can actually play defense, there's a spot for him on the bench, right? I have mixed feelings on it, partially because, well, let's look at it logically. Several stars in the NBA had the corona, so that close contact, I don't know if you're making the proper safety measures, but granted, money has to be made. So there's that concern coming into it. One, I also think there's just too much parity, or not parity, too many teams in there. I know it's 22. I'm all for the really bad teams not playing. There is no purpose why the Atlanta Hawks or the New York Knicks need to be in this odd season.
Right.
What? Lloyd Pierce, the coach for the the Hawks, were like, we have a lot of young guys who can use that exposure. I'm like, that's just an excuse to kind of put them out there on the court, and they're just going to eat up, the space anyway. We might love Trae Young. Yes, it hurts the brand because here's the truth. The NBA is one of those weird teams, or that weird organization where you can literally suck as a team, but you might have at least one star. Not a superstar, not the mega star, but one star that can push your brand, that can be identifiable. That's the Trae Youngs to me. The only team that I can really call on the back of my hand that never really had it was the Charlotte Bobcats back when they won 7 games. I think Gerald Wallace was the only one, and that wasn't – Gerald Wallace was Gerald Wallace. That's a name that we'll bring up probably later for a show. But – 13 in the West, 9 for the East. Really, it should just pop in your 8, right, for the East, essentially. If you're under, too bad, so sad, yo dad, right? You missed out. I don't even know who the number 9 would be because it's been so long.
So these are the 22 teams. In the Eastern Conference, you got Milwaukee, Toronto, Boston, Miami, Indiana, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Orlando, and Washington. And in the Western Conference, both LA teams, Denver, Utah, Oklahoma City, Houston, Dallas, Memphis, Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento, San Antonio, and Phoenix.
Okay, I'm gonna touch on this. I'm gonna split it between East and West. One, on the East, everybody's trash except for Bradley Beal. You don't need to have them. You could eliminate them. You could at East. What you should have done is, like a preseason, you do the play-in tourney. I know they were trying to do that a little bit with Cuban, Mark Cuban, the owner of the Mavericks. They were addressing it. There's a lot of good teams on the West. Why the hell are the Phoenix Suns even there? I don't even think they're really that close into contention.
Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. The Suns are 6 games back of the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are 32 and 33, so they're 1 game below 500, and Phoenix is 26 and 39. So they limited to teams that were within, I guess, 6 games or so. Yeah, 6 games, because Washington was 5.5 back of Orlando. So the teams that were within 6, just to at least, I mean, there were only 20 games left in the season by the time they finished, 15 games. Yeah. So I guess realistically, you could come back from being 5-6 games down. It'd be really hard, but
That's not basketball. But it's not basketball, though. Football is more likely. Baseball, even.
Yeah,
Basketball Basketball's really split into like you win when you lose one, you win when you lose one, you win when you lose one. It's kind of hard to be like on that heater of a
Streaky,
win streak.
yeah.
You don't see it that often. So because my whole thing is I'm saying reduce the amount of play for this whole thing so we get a average real full length season next year. Personally speaking.
I mean, that's also part of this. The NBA and the NHL has the same issue because they both play 82 games and play around the same time, starting in somewhere in October. Their issue right now is how to have a legitimate finish to the current season and when to start the next one. The NBA is kind of eyeing, like, probably Christmas is what they're eyeing for, end of December, and I think the NHL are eyeing for like a December 1st start, but NHL doesn't even have a start date for the current plan that they have with the 24 teams that they're gonna do. So that's the deal for the NBA as well. Is they'll probably start around Christmas, so they'll have this end of season format. I'm assuming it'll end somewhere in September or something, kind of around with the time NFL is starting to ramp up, and then they'll have like a break, and then go from there. Training camp in November, and then November/December, and they get started on Christmas.
I guess they're really hoping that the 2 to 3 month break that they had in the middle of the season, I guess, is going to help with the body of the players,
right?
Because they're getting some rest. But here's the other flip side conversation. You're going to have a lot more dudes susceptible to longer season-ending injuries now. If someone tears an Achilles or a knee, which is your predominant injury that you get in basketball, now in, I don't know, June, so when's it going to fully start? July?
July 31st is what they're aiming for.
Whew, man, something happens here in the short term. They're really out for really almost like a season and a half at that best. And, a lot of those rebuilding franchises, they can't afford to have that happen. And then there might be guys who want to rush back from injury, unlike Kevin Durant, which is actually good. I wanted to talk about that with the NBA anyway, so that works, but we'll touch on that in a second. I mean, look, do I want a definitive end? Yes, I do. Do I think they're taking too long to get to that definitive end? Absolutely. Is this basically just a, hey, we really want the season because the Lakers are, the best team in the West and we want to solidify that because we might not have that in the coming years? Obviously. Is it, hey, the Bucks, who have always been taken as an I won't say underdog, but underappreciated franchise for so long, has opportunity to be the best team in the East and be the best, so we want to finish up? Absolutely. There's a story here. But I don't think you need, even if it's 6 games, so what? We already talked about the streakiness of it.
I thought, and this is, because I'm looking at the standings, like the Washington Wizards were 5.5 games behind the Magic. With like, let's say by that point they had already played 64 games. And I'm like, I don't think there was any way that the Wizards were going to come back and overtake Orlando in that sense. Because even if both teams went 500, which is probably what, like, the point that you were making, I'm like, okay, like, what's the reason for having the Wizards there? And as far as the Western Conference, I mean, Portland was 3.5 games back. That's probably why they were dissenting. Like, do we really have to play?
I agree with Portland, though. I agree with Portland, wanting to at least have a buy-in tourney. But continue.
Yeah, that's the thing. I wanted them to. I like the NHL's format for this. I like that they're. You know what? Screw it. The regular season is over. The teams are where they are. We'll have an extended playoff. Everybody gets to feel good. You can hang a banner or add a number to your team's history if you want to, especially for the Florida Panthers, because God knows we need playoff appearances in our history. But I think it's a nice, quick way of getting to the ultimate, handing out the trophy at the end. The NBA's format, which is this, they'll have the extend the regular season for 16 days with 5 to 6 games per day. There will be 4 hours between games on each individual court because, of course, the NBA holds their summer league in the same area. The league will be using 3 courts in the complex for the games. 8-game regular season format. Each team expected to play 1 back-to-back. And they're going to move up, and they're going to try and get the playoffs over with quicker than they normally do because the NBA playoffs are so long because they take so much time in between games. They're going to try and move those up, which I'm all for. I kind of like how baseball is like, okay, game 1 is today, game 2 is tomorrow, travel, game 3, 4, 5, travel, and then they just get it over with. They don't have to drag it on for so long. NBA
Best
used to
of
be like
5
that.
series. Best of 5 until you get to the conference finals, and the NBA finals, best of 7.
Yeah, and the NBA finals format expected to include games every other day, which I could see being kind of fair, especially if you're just holding it in one place. There's no travel. One day, everybody breaks. Everybody can talk about the game before. Next game, and that's it. So, but as far as the regular season, I'm like, if Portland's out, they're out. They're 3.5 games out. They played, let's see, at that point, 37 and 29. So that was what, 66 games?
Mm-hmm.
And Memphis had played 65 games. So they played more games. Memphis was still better than them. Even if Memphis loses a game, they're still better than them points percentage wise. And just cut off the season. Let's just start the playoffs. But whatever. I guess those teams had some point they could theoretically come back. But you don't really see, like you said, you don't see those miracles in basketball like you see in baseball.
Yeah, I think it's
And
beyond
they don't
that,
have
too.
a point system like in the NHL where you can just kind of game the system and pick up points in stupid ways and make the playoffs. So,
I would also say there's something that other sports don't have when you're on the fringe playoff team. They have legitimate star power. Who is on the Wizards? Bradley Beal. Who is
Right.
on the Trailblazers? Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum. These are guys that you want to see play, even as a fringe playoff team. Because I say 5 games, you're out. You're really out.
That was
But-
a point that people said about those Western Conference teams because look at, you got John Morant in Memphis. The Grizzlies were in the playoffs, so anyways. New Orleans has, of course, Zion. You got Fox in Sacramento. That's somebody people would like to see play. San Antonio still has Pop and gosh darn, I already forgot his name from DeMar DeRozan, I guess. And Phoenix has those young guys, even though they still haven't figured it out yet. So they're kind of like they're a stretch. I think Phoenix is a stretch, being 26 and 39 and still
That's a big stretch.
having a chance to extend their season. But New Orleans, because they were making such a good stride after Zion Williamson came back, I'm sure that's probably part of the reason the NBA wants this format. But I think a play-in game would have been nice too, just like the NHL had. I mean, you had the fringe teams on the outside that were not the 16 teams. And I guess this is a sort of way of doing it, but it's still not necessarily the playoffs. Either way, the NBA and Disney and Turner, they're all going to get their money's worth because, hey, Zion's back, everybody.
So let me ask you this, and Andrew, you could chime in too on this portion. Wasn't this the perfect opportunity to test out the playoffs and just say, all right, the best 16 teams, no matter seeding?
Oh.
I really think this was your chance.
Yeah. This is
and you screw the pooch.
Yeah. Milwaukee and the Lakers at 1 and 2, and then, even if there are, 13 Western Conference teams to the 8 Eastern, or 12 Western Conference to 8 Eastern teams. Hey, that's the way it is.
Yeah, and this time, like an 8th seed is actually an 8th seed, because from the East settings, because let's be fair, we do the seeding that we want to see, then you're going to have at least the 6 to 8s on the East really be the 6 and 8s, and those 6 to 8s in the West are so much superior for the most part that you're going to get some damn good matchups. This is your opportunity, because I'm not for reseeding in the future, because I believe that with NBA there's been some parity, and we will get that you're not really going to have a NBA team under 500 kind of stuff. I don't care too much about the West. A Western team that is a 6, 7, or 8 has such a bigger jump in win percentage over 500 compared to the Eastern, because I think eventually the Eastern Conference teams will be over. 6, 7, 8s will be over 500 or at 500. It happens, but it's just at the point. That's what it's been the last couple of years. But this was your opportunity to really make it exciting in such a way that had been seen before. Mm-hmm. And whoever's the last man standing is the last man standing. I do like what hockey's doing, from how you explained to me. Just go jump into it. And this is kind of important what they do now, because I think hockey's also looking at their long-term health of the next season for their players, and I think NBA is just kind of being sure-sighted. But I pose you guys this question. I'll ask a general forum. Guys who are supposed to have season-ending surgery on both sports, we'll go hockey and we'll go basketball, should they be allowed to return this year? Because I know Kevin Durant said he wasn't going to, because he's just not medically cleared. But if certain players like Kyrie Irving was busted out, as were other ones. So if given that option, do you feel that those guys, because they don't really have IR the way that
I think
football does.
Well, the NHL does have an injured reserve list.
Do they?
Yeah. But I think that they should. They're still on the roster. They're still available. If they are available, they are available. I think if the guy's ready, the guys are ready.
But they wouldn't have been ready had there not been a push out.
For the Red Sox, Pedro Martinez, when he wasn't supposed to be available in the division series against the Indians in '99, and he wasn't supposed to be available at all. I don't think he was even supposed to pitch in the playoffs. And Game 5, he gets up in the bullpen and he starts warming up. He's still on the roster. I think you can have moments like that where hey, he's back. It's in a weird circumstance, but he's back. And of course, the NBA loves their star power. If they can have Kyrie Irving come back for the Nets, I'm pretty damn sure they're gonna let it go.
Yeah. I'm just petty.
Because who knows? They could have made a miraculous recovery in the middle of the season, anyways. I don't. If the guy's available, no matter the circumstance, I'd say you let him go. There shouldn't be a reason to hold him back. He's part of your roster. You're still paying him anyways. I would want to see him play, especially if I'm still paying him.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the NBA's plan. It is what it is. It's probably, as far as the safety is concerned, the other thing that I was seeing here is they're going to have an NBA bubble. They'll have the safety protocols. The players and coaches can hang out at the wonderful facilities at Disney World and the resorts. They'll be allowed to golf and eat outdoors at their outdoor restaurants and maintain social distancing. They'll have daily testing for coronavirus within the complex. If the player tests positive, they'll remove him, have to quarantine and receive treatment individually, and test all of the other team members. And employees at Disney will have to maintain similar protocols. Or, so if I was a player, I'd probably just sit in my room, in my hotel room, get my PS4 or my Xbox One or my Switch and download Bug Fables and just go to town on that. So you can get it on those systems. It's basically a Paper Mario game that's not a Paper Mario game. And so I might actually get that. And you should too, before the real Paper Mario comes out in July on the Switch. I'm just saying.
I hear LeBron James plays Bug Fables, so he's a big proponent of it. Go play it.
Of course.
Before we move further, I wanted to bring up a couple of other things, if that's all right with you, gentlemen.
Indeed.
while we're on the topic of resumption of seasons and COVID-19 and all that jazz, first off, I want to say, MLB, come on,
Ha!
what are you doing? What's going on here, bub?
That's kind of where I wanted to go. So thank you, Andrew.
Come on, Bubby. Well, let's do something quick first because that's going to take a while. Let's crap on the MLB right
Well,
now.
we're 30 minutes in, so we can crap on them if you want to.
Yeah, and eventually I'll talk about the NCAA in a little bit because they've come up with a way to get back to a regular season starting on time, which is incredible. But let's talk about MLB really quick because, dude, come on, my friend, my friends of the diamond, my beloved baseballers, what the hell are you doing? Seriously though.
So
So let
Andrew
me
is
make
referring to the fact that Major League Baseball, the owners, have brought out proposals that the Players Association has not liked. And it seems like every time the MLB brings out another proposal, it's basically the same thing, just worded differently. And the players are not liking that. The MLB doesn't share their financials with the Players Association. So they're not really they're not negotiating fairly in good conscience with each other. And it's frustrating everybody. Some people are blaming the Players Association because
I
they
do
see
not in the slightest.
and the reason people say that is because, well, you guys are millionaires anyways. So what are you guys complaining about? Even if you got paid half of what you did, you're still millionaires. Well, that's not true for all of the players. There are fringe guys there that are not making millions of dollars. They make good money, that's for sure, compared to us. But they still have to travel. They still have to expose themselves to a virus. They still have to interact with other people. They still have to travel, be away from their families, and have the fear that they could spread something to their families. And so, and the players have tried to meet the MLB halfway and say, okay, we'll pay us what you would normally pay us, pro rata, for however, like, we want to play. The players want to play. They've actually proposed more games than the owners have. The owners keep harping on 50 games. That's what the owners want. They want to pay these players 50 games and pay them, what was it? Either 50 to 75% of what they would normally pay those guys. Per pro rata per day. So it's not like Justin Verlander would make, I don't know, $50,000 one per game, and it's like, okay, well, they're only going to pay him $50,000 per those 50 games. It's like, no, they're going to pay him. They want to pay him like $40,000 of that, and it's like, well, you guys signed contracts. I know this is an extenuating circumstance, but these guys are still getting paid by that. The Players Association doesn't want to give in because the CBA is coming up, and this is a power move by the owners trying to get at that this year before they really go after it next year. And the players don't want to give in because if they do, it's going to make things harder for them next year when they negotiate the CBA. And it's not looking good. There are people who are optimistic, thinking that something will get done, but the owners are trying to throw the players under the bus publicly, when in fact it's not helping either side, to be honest.
My big thing is, someone brought up a good point. I think it was Buster Olney, who said that baseball had the prime opportunity to potentially be the game in town in American sports for
The summer.
the summer. I'm sure that NBA or NHL might have popped in there at some point, in late July, but they had the momentum. They were the first ones that were coming up with any sort of concrete ideas, and
They effed it up.
they blew it. They there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They blew it.
Adam Sandler, you blew it.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's if it was like the NFL doing it, yeah, that'd be bad enough. The only two leagues that couldn't afford this sort of whatever,
Stoppage.
the stoppage and this this back and forth, looking like a little bunch of crybabies.
Yeah, billionaires arguing with millionaires, which is
There
what
are only
the public sees it as.
Right. There are only two leagues that couldn't afford that. The NHL, who went on a full season lockout within the past 15 years, and has gone on a very prolonged lockout since then.
Right.
That they didn't even get started until January.
Right.
So they wiped out they lost their All-Star game. They lost the first half of their season. There are two leagues that couldn't afford to do this. The NHL and Major League Baseball. Given it's been 25 years since their last work stoppage. But it killed them. And it's now just starting to maybe recover, although it's starting to lose popularity to the other sports.
Yeah.
They seriously could not afford, even if they had not had any work stoppages ever. Just the fact that they're losing ground to football and hockey and basketball, that in of itself shows that they had no room to show any sort of infighting, and even more so to stop a golden opportunity for them to be the one and only thing on TV. People are so desperate to watch sports right now. They're watching Korean baseball at 2 a.m, and they are loving it.
Yeah. Japanese. Yeah, the Japanese league is up. The Korean league is up. The Taiwanese league is up.
So it's they not only did they not grab that opportunity, it's not like, oh, they just were delaying because they weren't sure. Okay, that's not great because you had the opportunity, but no, you've been actively fighting each other. So not only is the chance of you getting a decent season in going down, everyone's hating your guts. Now, to be fair, any reasonable person, and I apologize to anyone else I'm making angry by saying this, I'm putting the blame on the owners 100%. Yes, the Players Association may not be negotiating 100% in good faith, but when it comes down to it, look, I get it. They're millionaires. It's a lot of money. I will be so lucky if I were to make $1 million in 1 year. I'd be so lucky if I made $1 million in one lifetime. But you've got billionaires here. Yeah, it's going to suck. You're going to lose tens of millions of dollars this year because of the whole situation. But tens of millions of dollars is one player's salary. So, nut up or shut up, gentlemen. And possibly lady. I'm not sure if there's a female owner in Major League Baseball.
No. Nah, not right now.
Not anymore. I think Marge Schott was the last for the Reds. But
Right.
come on, business
Yeah.
is a risk. It's a risk to be the owner of any sort of business. You have insurance plans for something like this. So
There.
instead of putting if say like, all right, we'll take the loss here, but let's do something to make a season out of this, and who knows, maybe we'll come back better from it. But instead, no, they're having to pinch every single possible penny, and as a result, you're taking money. Look what they're doing to the minor leaguers.
Yeah.
Another case in point. They're killing all these minor league teams for no reason whatsoever. And, all right, I get it. You have to condense, fine. But don't do it in the middle of a freaking economic downturn. That's just not right. That's not human to be putting these guys who in of themselves are already not making a lot of money. They're being paid less than teachers to just basically out on the street, oops, sorry, you're out of a job. And with no job prospects in the middle of a giant recession. So I have no sympathy for these owners. None whatsoever. And, I mean, obviously, I don't know. I could talk on this for hours.
Yeah.
But I'm just frustrated with the owners because I lay this solely on their feet. Maybe the MLB.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Andrew. Finish your thought.
Sorry, maybe the MLBPA could have, been a little more wanting to play toward the center. But I think they've been doing a good job of trying to balance interests, especially when the players have a lot more to lose than the owners do. You have to give, in a balanced negotiation like this, it's not going to be 50-50. If truly balanced to equate out risk, you have to give a little more incentive to the players.
Right.
But the owners don't give a damn about that. They're going to try and get every single possible cent out of them. And as a result, we're having another 1994 situation. And if Major League Baseball doesn't play a substantial number of games, or God forbid, doesn't play a season at all, I don't see why people would come back to baseball again. They're tired of this crap. I mean, I was alive in '94. I wasn't cognizant for it though. But let's say average, like I remember let's say 1998. So that means I was 6. So someone who was 6 in 1994 would be born in 1998, correct? Am I mathing that correctly?
Yeah.
So someone who was born in 1988, that's around your age, right, Francisco?
Yep.
Do you remember the first strike?
No, I was too busy. 94 is when Sonic and Knuckles come out, so I was too busy.
Understood.
Sorry.
No problem. So someone in their early 30s, they will have gone through 2 major work stoppages in Major League Baseball in their lifetime. I would not blame them one bit if they just said "Fi" and threw their hands up in the air and just said, "I'm done with you. I'm going to watch Korean baseball," or, even worse for Major League Baseball, go watch NFL, NBA, NHL, because there's a little more stability with those leagues. I can't follow a league that has a risk of canceling itself 2 more times in my life.
Well, right now, this is what's going around today. So MLBPA had a new proposal. This time, because their last one was about 114 games. The owners were at 50. Their proposal now is at 89 games for the players want to play 89 games. They're not moving off the full prorated share of salary, and they want expanded playoffs. I wouldn't mind expanded playoffs, I think that would be nice. So they're trying to bring the sides closer together there, rather than the 50. I've been saying this all along. I'm like, and everybody thinks, oh, that would be a really nice amount of games, Charles. Very nice, 69 games. But 82 games, that's how much the NHL and NBA normally plays. I've been a proponent for shortening the baseball season anyways. I know that the records matter for people in baseball, but those people are the people who don't like sabermetrics and all that stuff. I'm good with baseball shortening its season regardless. 50 games is too little. 82 games is a nice sweet spot for me. 114 games is around like the proposal that I wanted anyways, like 120 per season. So that there's more rest, there's more hype for certain series during the season rather than seeing certain teams 40,000 times. Okay, you only see them 4 times per season, and now it's more significant. But the owners are probably going to reject the players' current counter offer. Major League Baseball, according to Evan Grant now, they're saying they want 76 games. Players are 89. So the midpoint is still around 82. I don't know why, but really, it's not really the amount of games at this point. The owners don't want to play the full prorated share to the players. The players want that, and that's it. So as far as the playoffs and everything, those are fringe topics that they're throwing out there. But the real issue is the players want to be paid the full amount that they would have been paid had there been a full season. Not like their entire salary. So, Giancarlo Stanton's not getting paid $30 million for 82 games. He's getting paid however much, let's see, 162 divided by 30 million.
A lot.
Dear Lord. Huh?
It's a lot.
It's a ton of money.
But
that's about $185,000. So he would get paid $15 million for 82 games. It's about half.
Yeah. Well,
that's what the players want.
All right. I'm gonna do what I do best, and let's take devil's advocate here because I think everybody wants baseball, and I think we're always going to be sympathetic to the players because you guys touched upon it earlier. You have a lot of guys who are on fringe contracts, right? Because it might be their contract year, arbitrations out there giving them low money, or they think they might be deserved, but there's going to be guys who are coming in to a contract year either this year or next year because baseball is that sport that they don't really like to reward one-hit wonders, but if you put on 2 good productive seasons, you're going to get paid. But me doing my best James Bond impersonation of a villain is going to villain it out hardcore 007, so let's talk about him. Because if I'm the owner, and I'm going to keep it PG, but if I'm the owner and I'm one of the Steinbrenners who's on there or everybody else, the other owners, I don't know everybody's names, you know what I'm saying? F them, player-wise. Because you have a contract, we're asking you to fulfill the contract for the services of the time that's required. So you're not coming in. You just want to get more money for stuff you haven't played on. Boo freaking who? I'm so sad. I pay you for 50 games. You get your 50-game paychecks. We're not taking away. We're not reducing your actual games played per salary. I think that was a contention in the CBA and the NFL to where you're actually going to get more money out of it or more guaranteed because instead of it being like every 4 weeks or whatever, you're going to get it at a quicker time. We are paying you for the contract that you served. If my billing is $300 an hour, it's not. I work for a nonprofit. Charles doesn't bill. But if I bill you, for 3 of it, if I provide that hour of service and you tell me I'm going to get my $300, I'm getting my $300, baby. It's not like you're saying, hey, 1 hour of your time, but instead of $300, what we agreed upon, I'm only going to give you $150. I'm going to give you $299.9. I don't know how favorable you're going to look even if you're a player, and I understand your plight that your agent, Scott Boras, is usually their guy, right? I forgot who the other guy is that's pretty predominant in baseball, was able to fleece these owners under desperation. I'm sorry, Manny Machado. And I'm sorry, Bryce Harper, that you understand the losses of coming into 50 games, but you want to either play yourself. Yes, you are putting yourself at risk, but every job has a safety concern, right? And this is just me spewing pure jargon as an owner. But are you going to get the sympathies of the viewers on the base of like, what? If his pro rate is 183,000 a game, we're going Giancarlo because none of us at the Sports Goof do math, you guys. We became lawyers, not accountants. And I pay you that, and I don't underchange you a minute a cent less. How am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy because I didn't want to pay more than what we agreed upon for the viewers? For the viewers, you don't even come to our games because it's too long and not everybody comes in there. You don't even watch our games. Boo-hoo. Who cares about you? You don't even watch the complete playoffs. You don't watch any of that. You know, if I'm the owner, it's a business and you can't lose money. Because here's the thing, too. Yes, this is bad for the CBA, but who do you think is going to sweat first? The guys who have no alternative of a sport to go play on, because Japanese baseball, Chinese baseball, overseas baseball is not as popular as maybe in basketball because they make some dough, man. Stephen Marbury made a lot of money. Hockey makes a lot of money. Football is us, it's U.S., so it doesn't go from there.
Right.
That's going to offer you that per rate. Yeah, there's certain things you should get in your new CBA, especially TV revenue. It's kind of hard when everything's blacked out, but you need to get that money because the chunk of change that the NFLPA gets out of it's ridiculous. But who's going to blink first? Because what is the stop a businessman? Because here's the thing, you guys were, the owners are going to lose money in businesses. Fools, they already have businesses that make them billionaires to buy this business. They'll survive. It's an investment. You cut the losses, man. You cut the losses if it's just going to be losses. Because here's the thing, too. Could you not give an alternative sport for people to watch? Let's say something goes on the Wayfire and we're just going to have a downpour and no one's going to want to play. Then let's get the scabs in. Hey, you're minor leaguers. You want to be a major league player?
Oh.
We'll pay you. Get those kids from college basketball. Because what's the alternative? They're going to watch college basketball? It's not all at the same time, right?
Well,
so get the scabs.
Historically, scabs have not worked historically in any league.
Yeah, that's true. But in today's times, we're also desperate for something. They're watching career baseball. Did you not just say that? We're watching at 2 a.m. guys we don't know. We don't know how this procedure is going to be. So why wouldn't I get a scab? Why not? What are scabs? Guys who are in the minor leagues who might be called up one day or guys from overseas? People are going to watch it. If the whole basis of this is that we're so desperate to watch them for sports because we can't live a day without it, like we become literally the American cartoon, right? Or the caricature of a sports-loving, beer-chugging guy. And hey, we're all those guys. I love sports. But if I can't survive without it, why would I want to be entertained in my little house, especially if the numbers go back up? And I'll watch, Joe Schmo throwing and Bobby Joe hitting because if I'm entertained from it, and maybe there's new stars. Because right now, who's going to sweat more? The guys who are going to get paid, and are you really getting the sympathies?
I mean, there's very little guys have come out as stars from those historically. I think for baseball, they were about to get scabs in, and that stopped when they finally came to an agreement in the '94 strike and the '95 shortened season. I think Kevin Millar was a scab. Kevin Millar was a scab. He was never a member of the MLB Players Association because of it. Sometimes in video games, you won't see Kevin Millar on the roster. You'll just see, John Doe or whatever. Yeah. So it's very rare that happens. And I guess the issue now is that the owners are saying, well, there's nowhere else to go. People want to watch baseball. People are desperate. But the other sports are coming. NBA already has their date set. And NHL is going to have their date set soon enough. The NFL and college football are going to get started up as well. And there's going to be no baseball. And when people realize, hey, we didn't miss it, it's only going to hurt them. Except for the hardcore baseball fans, which now there are fewer of, even though the MLB is still making more revenues. So even in that sense, revenues are going higher, even with less fans. So that means the players can still get paid even with no fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's either a situation of absent makes the heart grow fond or absent makes the heart
And that's
forget.
part of the
And that's-
negotiations the players are throwing at the owners. Like, you guys are still making more money, and we have less people in the stands, and our stadiums are getting smaller. As they're ripping out seats in certain areas, like in Colorado, in Arizona, in Miami. So there's money. The owners are getting money from somewhere without fans.
But I guess the idea of how they have to kind of approach it is saying, all right, never again, right? And that's when you have to go to the new collective bargaining agreement and have a force majeure clause in there. Any kind of big epidemic. Sometimes you can't plan for everything, but if you have the opportunity to rework a structure and a contract for more money or for these hazard pays, that's really what it is. It's just a hazard pay. For this thing, like, mind you, I would say give them 2/3 of their contract, right? It's unreasonable to me, as sympathetic I am to players, to give them the full max amount of contracts when they haven't played it, right? That's like saying you pay me my salary. That's like, take it away from our professions. Like, you just go to the lawn maintenance guy. He doesn't even cut your lawn. You got to give him everything. He just chips a little bit of it. Get the hell out of here, Bob. But if you have a hazard pay for it, and then you allow it to disperse it, then maybe you get some clarity. I'm just trying to look it through the owner's eyes, the same way of how I did several shows back about owners being reticent to give massive contracts to the Bryce Harpers, the Manny Machados, because it gets spurred, right? Because, hey, it alleviates their wallets. Imagine not having to pay for that year the $30 million.
I mean, that's the thing that's going to be coming up next year, as far as because MLB owners are trying to shave money. You've noticed the trend of signing players while they're young.
Yeah.
And MLB owners, and really all sports, are doing this now, thanks to analytics and things. We're projecting how good you're going to be in the next few years. We're not paying people for what they did in the past. So it's like, okay, let's sign this guy. Let's sign Juan Soto to a long-term contract before he hits his free agency, and give him a boatload of money, but not as much of a boatload as we would have to pay out in 4 seasons from now when he's hitting free agency and he's demanding the $300 million contract that the other guys are getting.
Yeah, or those cheating Astros who have to pay Bregman and Altuve and all that.
Correa, Springer.
I mean, that bill is going to come due. But that's the other point, though. If I'm the owners, my God, would I love a shortened season? Because if I have a super team that I've built, just the Angels themselves, the money they have invested in Anthony Rendon and then in Mike Trout, I wouldn't have to. It's a big amount of money that you're leaving yourself of. And maybe you can redistribute it. And that's a conversation maybe they want to have. Some back pay for the next following year, right? You don't get your full contract, but maybe you get an additional third of it. So you get your games played, and then you get a third of what would have been entitled, which is still a substantial amount of money as an added bonus. So you can just label it as 2020 roster, right? 2020 roster bonus for a 2021 contract. And I think that's amenable. It's a windfall. And who's really, because what it's going to do is inflate your contract for that year. It's guaranteed money. They can't be touched upon. But that's the part, is it's the art of thinking outside of the box. And and that's the problem, not to go lawyer 101 for everybody, but you guys know this, that's the problem with a bargaining agreement. It's so ironclad that if you're ironing that shirt and has a crease, that crease can't come out, man. It's just stuck there. That's that air bubble that can't come in. So you have to have like that creative thinking, I guess, that happens. So I think it's very interesting, because I agree with both of you that I don't think it will put baseball on critical life support. And I think the scab thing, if this proponent that we're so desperate for sports will watch anything, I'm not, but maybe there is that person who exists. I just go out there and get a run and get the breeze. But I think what happens is that you're just going to have you might not get international players who want to come over that aren't like Cuban defects. So you just want guys who say, hey, I'll just stay in overseas, like, Korea, and go wherever. And then you have guys who just maybe as draft prospects while staying in college, or just on the pros, they just might have a hardballing on the CBA in the future, and also their own individual contracts. They might ask for more guaranteed money. They might ask for player options. They might ask for all the stuff that's not here, but it might be in in like the NBA has, because I don't think baseball, I haven't really seen or encountered a player option. Have you? And those player options are the ones that you roll your eyes on hate in basketball, but you're like, damn it, I really want to trade him, but no one wants to trade him, and I know he's gonna, opt in.
Giancarlo Stanton has a player option with the Yankees.
Does he? I mean, but the idea. Okay, so that's my exception. But his thing is, and I would kind of say that contract's not the rule. I would say it's more the exception because it's so spread out. I don't know when his option would expire. I just remember it was for the 13. Is it next season? Oh, he's gonna opt in
or
anyway.
this season. I'm not sure, but it's after I think this season or next season that he can be like, yeah, I'm gonna stay here and get paid $13 million or I don't know how much. I think it jumped up to like $25 million, something like that, something massive and ridiculous per year.
But the great thing is it's not as massive as the new ones. But to bring that to the point, though, that might be something that they look for in the guaranteed contracts as a norm, not an exception. Because I knew about, like, a lot of them have had those extended years. I've usually seen the player options done in basketball, and they're smart to do it because remember about 3-4 years ago when the salary cap just shot up and everybody was getting stupid deals. Guys who are like 6 and 7 men on the bench are getting like these $14-15 million years. Our own Tyler Johnson. That part of it was the poison pill of how they were doing with the match salaries over in, what was it, Brooklyn? But you take from what other things happen, man.
Yeah, that's when
from other
NBA,
sports.
Their salary cap jumped from I forgot what to, it just jumped significantly high because they made like a boatload of money, and there was just a ton of money, and teams are just throwing money at guys that should never have seen that amount of money in their lifetime.
Of course,
Tyler
not.
Johnson especially.
But forgive me for taking a long wind on advocating for soulless businessmen, but I felt like, what's the fun in having a podcast if all three of us are going to be like, you're terrible people?
Oh, no. That's it's a good point. And there are people who have that opinion. They're on the side of the owners. It's like, you guys, this seems reasonable, especially people who, let's say, they're not billionaire owners, but maybe they own their own business. There are people out there that pay season tickets for and have some pretty swanky seats, have their own businesses. They're not gajillionaires, but they got some nice cash, and they're looking at the players like, look, they're giving you stuff. They're still gonna pay you something, and something that's ridiculous amount that I don't even see as an owner of my own business. Why aren't you playing? So that's what some people think too. So what you said, there are people with that opinion. There are people who are workers anyways, and are like, well, I don't get paid that much, and I go to work every day, and I shovel garbage into this and that, and I come home stinking to high heaven. I only get paid $30,000 per year, and gosh darn it, you guys are gonna play because you guys are still getting paid millions. And even the French guy, the 34-year-old guy who's on his last leg is still getting paid a minimum contract, which is still like $500,000. So he's still getting paid. So people are gonna see it that way. There are people who are always gonna see it that way. Like they play that. It's like, well, they don't pay teachers and nurses this much, so what? So it's like, okay, well. Okay, so we're at an hour, guys. So let's move on to a word from our non-sponsors, people, places, things, concepts, whatever, that you guys have been enjoying over the past week. Anybody want to start? Outside of Age of Wonders, Planetfall Invasions, because that is always, they're an actual sponsor, and you can get that on your PS4, your Xbox One, or your PC. You can get it for like $50 on Steam with like the expansion that came out. Get it all bundled and everything. It's a good deal, if you know what I mean.
It's the best deal. Well, I'll go first. Give some time because you can't play Age of Wonders on your Switch, right? But let me tell you what I have been playing on my Switch. Because you guys, The Last of Us 2 comes out June 19th. Super excited. Very excited. I did a replay through of the first one just to kind of, it's been 7 years. So like, all right, we'll do the replay and get the brain going. But then I was like, all right, we're done, right? So I beat it. And I was like, what can I start or continue that kind of gets my attention span, but isn't overly long. Because, my biggest complaints have always been the new era of video games are exceptionally too long. Some game, like I was looking at Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I'm like, crap, you're like 80 hours. I want to play this game that comes out on this day, the moment it comes out, versus being invested in you, starting your story, and then getting caught up. So I decided to boot up my little Switch. She's been lonely, it's been a while. I've had to just kill through the backlog. And then I said, all right, I don't know about you guys. I kind of love a little bit of that beat 'em up dungeon crawler games I can grind stuff to. Play some music, listen to some audiobooks. So I looked at my Switch library, and I see on the cover some of my favorite friends that I grew up with as a kid, that I learned to become, that shaped my formative years, really, and then continued my consistency now as a attorney at 30 years old. And I had Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 with Wolverine on the cover with everybody else. I was like, man, you know what? Let's just get back into it. Because I had only played an hour of it when I was in New Orleans with my buddies, and I kind of forgot about it versus it. But I have dedicated way too much time since I started on Friday. I've probably popped in between 15 hours because it's just a grind session. You have 30 characters, and that's without the expansion pass. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to get the expansion pass where you're going through the story. The story is fine. Thanos has the Infinity Stones. Very similar to like the movies, but they're on the hunt for it. You're going against the Black Order. But be able to play as, it's different than the other kind of beat 'em up dungeon crawlers because I'm not necessarily having to play as a warlock, a bard, anything. I get to play as Spider-Man. I get to play as Wolverine. I get to play as Nightcrawler. I was like so happy about it. There's some play as like Falcon. He's kind of lame. But then there's other characters I'm like, oh, snap, what do you do? And it's Crystal, who's an Inhuman. So aside from, and I like comics, you guys know I read comics and what have you. I did as a kid, more as an adult now, which I haven't touched my Unlimited account as much as I should. But it's the party of 4. You can play online with your friends. You have simplistic attacks, light attacks, heavy attacks, can do special team attacks. And then when you get your meter up, you can do your Extreme Alliance and just do the 4 moves. And it's just, damn, it's such a good time. And I found myself, instead of just sticking to 4 guys or girls, I'm just going to want to level everybody up because once you get to level 20, then you unlock, to my knowledge, everybody's abilities. Then you have modifiers. It's just a good dang time. They have infinity trials, so you're not just stuck with playing the story and replaying chapters to grind out. You're doing missions. You have qualifiers. You have debuffs and buffed abilities. And I gotta tell you, whether it's making my own Marvel Cinematic Universe Avengers movies or just making my own X-Force. I mean, the other day I was working with my team of Deadpool, Nightcrawler, Spider-Man, and Wolverine. I was having a good time. I was listening to my audiobook, and then like 2 hours come by, and it's that gratifying hearing of your character level up, and I'm like, all right, all of a sudden I'm at level 30. I'm just like halfway through the game now, so I'm gonna put a foot in some Thanos Black Order behinds coming at them Infinity Stones when I actually continue the story. So I'm afraid, because I went on to like howlongtobeat.com and like, oh, main story is like 13 hours, and then 13 hours and extra is like 18 to 20. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna probably pop in like 30 hours on this because I want to advance everybody. I want to see all their abilities are, and I'll just choose not to play them. Right now, the only characters I don't like are Falcon, and weirdly enough, Venom, but Venom just doesn't vibe with the kind of party I'm going for. But then they have the expansion pass for $20. I get paid tomorrow. I get to unlock additional characters. Moon Knight, who I'm reading his comics on. They got Morbius and Jared Leto movies come out. They got Punisher. They have the X-Men expansion with Phoenix, so Jean Grey and her persona is great. Who else do they have? And then they just had a Fantastic Four one that came out, Shadow of Doom, which is supposedly the epilogue. I'm excited, and I feel like even it's going to be like my bedtime game. I'm going to be obnoxious if I go ever interact with human beings. I'm going to be like, hey guys, want to go relive being 7 and beat up people as the X-Men? It's fantastic. It's going to encourage me to read more comics maybe when I'm in the bathroom or I'm just laying before bed. Or I'm just going to revisit it because then I'll just do the Infinity Trials and just to get more credits, more leveling ups, making everybody fantastic. And I'm just going to create some BAMPs, man. I'm going to create some badass mofos up in here. So Ultimate Alliance 3, promo code, grind.
Okay. Ooh, that was nice. It's basically just, this is the getting all your action figures and toys together and just smashing them together. This is basically it.
Yeah, it saves me the embarrassment of going to the local toy shop just to make my imaginary voices like I used to do when I was 7 and 8, and then just making storylines and doing crossovers. I mean, yeah, it's like my own. It's not a creative sandbox, but damn it, it's just what I need for the nostalgia feels.
All right, guys. I guess I'll go second here. So I mentioned this earlier to you guys before that. Okay, Andrew. I've been. We've been stuck inside watching stuff, and I've been watching something. I hadn't watched this in a while. I hadn't watched the last season, and I just got back into it. My non-sponsor is Bob's Burgers.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't seen any of the last season. And there were some episodes from the last few seasons that I hadn't seen either. And this show is just good. It's just fun. It's just funny. I enjoy it way too much. I like all of the characters. I like the vibe of it. I like Bob. I like the premise. It's just good old fun. Every episode, you don't really know what to expect in every episode. The most you can expect is the kids are going to do something crazy. Bob is going to be in a situation he didn't want to be in. But it's going to turn out good in the end. So, of course, we're going to have our feel-good stories. But all the characters are unique. They just vibe. And they vibe with me. And so the episodes have... There's one episode which I think... is probably like the biggest indicator of how big this has gotten, is the episode where Bob and Linda offer brunch for the first time in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And it is animated. Each scene, or at least part of each scene, is animated by a different animator. So the voices are the same, but different animators from all around the world have pieced together an episode of Bob's Burgers, so you see all the different art styles, and it is just a joy. So it makes you realize that the people behind it enjoy the art of animation. On YouTube, animation used to be a big thing, but then because of the algorithm and all that jazz, it became all about watch time and all this. So animation is not conducive to watch time. It's hard to animate. Animation is super hard. Okay, that animation I did above of our baseball broadcast for our college baseball with the eyes glowing for the Panther and the Knight up there, Nitro. It is Rory and Nitro. There you go, Andrew. Just that took time for me to do. So imagine putting on hours and hours upon of content just by animating. And now it's digital, but even then, that is still difficult to do. It's time consuming, frame by frame, piecing it together and editing it, voicing it. It is hard. These people have made a fantastic show, and I enjoy it. I've been watching it on Watch Cartoons Online if you want to watch stuff without having to pay a subscription. Just go on there. And but by all means, buy Bob's Burgers stuff to show people that the people who made the show that you love it. I bought my sister the Bob's Burger cookbook that came out that teaches you how to make certain burgers that are shown in the episodes. So that is pretty cool. She's only made use of it a couple of times, so I kind of want to take it back and use it for myself. Or I could just not be a cheapskate and get it, that and Bug Fables, which I am increasingly, every time I see that ad, power of advertisement, I feel like getting it because I love Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door, and it's giving me those vibes right now. And the next Paper Mario comes out like mid-July. So,
like July 16th?
Yeah, something like that. So if I buy it now, that could take me into that next Paper Mario, and that next Paper Mario looks like it's got a lot more inspiration behind it than the last two that have come out. So it's getting me excited. I'm not an RPG type of guy, but I'll play me some simple RPGs like Pokemon and Mario, that's for sure. But that's away from Bob's Burgers. Bob's Burger, make an RPG if you guys can. That'd be pretty fun. And promo code. I'm trying to think of something from the show. I can't even think of anything.
I mean, there's so many. I don't know how you messed that up.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Terrible. Can I give it to you?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I mean, Thanksgiving, because Bob loves Thanksgiving.
Oh,
that's his favorite holiday.
that's his favorite holiday.
Those are like some of my favorite episodes. Every
Yeah.
like weird Thanksgiving one, because it just takes them out of sequence. I think the funniest one is when he has to be like Fish Odor's servant because he wants to get with some woman.
Yeah, some
from his
lady.
past.
Yeah.
And then the kids are just kind of pitting against. First off, side note, like, how has Bob and Linda not beat their children? Because they are really like terrible kids. Like, you know, I mean, if DCM takes his kids, that's great for them, right? Because
Oh my
my God, like the backstage, or not the backstage, but the underground gambling rink, to which Bob has to pops his stitches out, like. Oh man, my hand would be red. What can I say? But yes, those are always some of my favorite episodes that they have.
The last Thanksgiving one was when he got that super fancy turkey, and he couldn't cook it because I guess their gas stove wasn't working, so he had to cook it outside in the middle of the alley. Yeah. I could go on and on. Andrew, you are pressed for time, so please go ahead. I'm sorry.
Not a problem. So my non-sponsor this week is Rawlings.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
As Francisco knows all too well, they are the sponsor of the Rawlings Web Gems in our college baseball commentary videos.
Wait, hold on. I think you've used Rawlings before because they made your wallet.
Correct,
Yes.
but I'm using it for a different purpose this time.
Oh, okay. All right.
So sue me if it's against our rules.
No. We've had double, triple non-sponsors before.
And we've shared Amazon, so it's, you know,
Yeah.
it's all the festival of love, baby. You love Rollins, we're here for you.
So in this case, I'm talking about my glove. Let me pull it out of the closet here.
What kind of glove? Is it a catcher's glove? First base glove? Oh, he's gonna walk back.
I just bought the cheap ones as a kid at Walmart, you know, when I was trying to be athletic.
All right,
I
here
think
we
I
are.
had a Rollins.
So I have two gloves from Rawlings. I've got a fielder's glove that I got back in, let me go ahead and say 2015. Yeah, 2015 I got this puppy. Outfielder's glove. It's mostly black with some brown lace, brown siding, whatever. Nice. I love Rawlings. I've mostly used Rawlings gloves my whole life. So I have a fielder's glove in black. Then I have a catcher's mitt in regular tan. Rawlings, I mean, I have a Rawlings wallet that goes just to show you how much I like Rawlings. Very comfortable. They wear in pretty nicely. I mean, I know it's kind of a random off the cuff one, it seems, but it's the smell of baseball glove is second to none, and it kind of takes me back to playing in Little League when I do wear one. It's comfort. It's familiarity. Do you guys own baseball gloves?
I did.
Yeah, they're back at my folks' place. I might have one in the back of my car. I know I have a football still back there from our law school days. When we had to throw around the football for a bit, just to ease the tension.
Right.
But yeah, of course.
So yeah, I've gotten the opportunity to break these puppies out recently. I've had someone to play catch with.
Nice.
Excellent.
which is fantastic because I just didn't have the opportunity before. So, showing a little bit of love and appreciation for Rawlings here. Promo code Heart of the Hide.
Nice. Very good. Yeah. New Heart of the Hides are out, by the way.
That is true. All right, so gentlemen, that'll be it for me this evening. Have a good rest of the show. Try not to do anything that'll cause us to get taken off the air.
Well, no
We
guarantees.
might have done that a while ago, but. Okay. All right.
All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.
Later,
Adios,
buddy.
Andrew.
All right, bye.
All right, Charles. Well, I don't have any much else to talk about outside of what we talked about, baseball and basketball.
Well,
So-
let's knock out some short segments. I think
Do I
if
have
you
any?
have to.
Hold on. I might have had something in the works. Give me a second.
Yeah.
If not, we'll head on over to the cage.
All right. And the cage will be pseudo lengthy because we had a pay-per-view, so that's a little preview for you.
Let's see. Already talked about that. Let's see. Already talked about that. Talked about that too. I do have a minor league team. All right. So a minor league team, you can prep for your cage. This is the only thing I got. I don't have a Hall of Fame or anything else set up.
All right.
So I'll just go with that. So better know a minor league team. I talk about the 4 billion minor league teams out there, especially the baseball ones, before Major League Baseball decides to gut the entire minor league system. We lose a bunch of teams, which is going to be sad because ever since I started this segment, it's been a real joy learning about these places. A lot of these minor league teams, especially the lower levels, they're in very small towns, small cities, small communities, and a lot of them have been there for a long time, or at least have had several iterations of minor league teams over the course of decades. And it's going to be sad to see those teams get cut out. This team, though, I don't think will get cut out because they're in the Florida State League. The minor league spring training complexes are there already. And so I'm sure baseball is going to justify saving these teams. And this is a Florida State League team. I'm going with the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles.
That's the best name you could name a minor league team. I'm just saying that right now.
And
nobody,
they just
Mighty
named the team that
Muscles.
right now.
For reals, for reals.
Yeah, this is their debut season as the Mighty Muscles, and I'll get through their team history because it has a Miami spin to it, a Marlins spin to it as well. So the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles, they were established in 1926. That's how far back this team goes. They were originally the Fort Myers Palms, and then they moved to Miami for the following season. And became the Miami Hustlers.
Oh, that's such a cool last name.
Yeah, Miami had some pretty. They had the Miami Hustlers, like the Miami Sun Sox, the Miami Tourists. That was a team name. The Miami Amigos. So there's a lot of pandering there, and this team became suspended after 1928, Great Depression, and all that. The Florida State League came back somewhere in the late 1930s, but this team didn't come back. But what they did, they came back as the Miami Marlins, the second iteration of this team. And they were most notably a Baltimore Orioles affiliate during that time. So a lot of great Orioles players. The Orioles used to be really, really good back then. They won a couple World Series around the time. And the Miami Marlins there was a team name from 1962 until 1970. Then they became the Miami Orioles for a time. Cal Ripken Jr. played there. Then they renamed back to the Miami Marlins. Then they changed their name to the Miami Miracle. And then following when the Florida Marlins were named as the next National League team along with the Rockies, the Miracle decided to move back to Fort Myers. They became the Fort Myers Miracle, and that's what they've been known as ever since until now, when they decided to jump on the bandwagon of, I guess, the last decade or so of minor league teams naming themselves odd things, especially in Florida. Very, I don't know, nautical themed names. You got the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, the Pensacola Blue Wahoos, and now you got the Clearwater Threshers, the Bradenton Marauders. You got now the Fort Myers Mighty Mussels, and their logo is pretty cool.
Let's take a peek at it.
Yeah, it's a bivalve, a clam, with the middle of it with he's just jacked, he's just ripped, and so there you go.
That doesn't look correct. In my head, I had a picture of a clam with two arms out, like a Pokemon with a baseball bat.
It kind of looks like a Pokemon, doesn't it?
Yeah. Because I mean, it's either that or the alternative is a baby coming out of a, vagina and just with a baseball bat. And it scares me.
That's true as well.
You see, we promised Andrew, but
it's too
I'm
late.
a promise
He's gone.
breaker. Yeah.
This is kind of like was it on Reddit or whatever? It's like mods are asleep. And
Do
you just
this.
go crazy on it. Yeah. So, and Andrew is a mod on Reddit, so I guess it's par for the course. So, they are the minor league affiliate of the Minnesota Twins. They used to be for the San Diego Padres. I said the Phillies and the Baltimore Orioles. They've won 7 championships in the Florida State League. 5 of them were when they were in Miami as the Orioles and the Marlins. And 2 of them, 2014 and 2018, as the Miracle in Fort Myers. As far as notable alumni, they got a ton of them. When they were in Miami as the Marlins and the Orioles, you had Ferguson Jenkins. These are Hall of Famers. Eddie Murray, Jim Palmer, Cal Ripken Jr., some other significant players. Don Baylor, Jose Canseco was here as well. And then as far as when they were in Fort Myers, a lot of the Twins players. So Michael Kadire, Torrey Hunter, Francisco Liriano, David Ortiz. A lot of people don't remember. He came up with the Twins. Miguel Sano right now with the Twins. And Joe Mauer.
That's
who just
a lot.
retired.
So is that just basically all the Minnesota Twins' best players?
Yeah, anybody that you remember from the Twins between 92 and now, that's where they made a stop in Fort Myers.
More power to them.
So a little trivia for you. They are partially owned as of now by Mike Veeck, the son of I think he's a Hall of Famer, but Bill Veeck, innovative owner in baseball. A lot of things that you take for granted in baseball games now, he was a pioneer of. Jimmy Buffett is also part owner of this team, and Bill Murray.
Really?
Yeah, Bill Murray. Bill Murray is a huge baseball fan. Of course, he's a Cubs fan. And
Yeah, I thought he would
part of the
have.
Mighty Muscles.
I thought he would have some kind of investment in that area. Keep it local.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, I don't know. I guess probably had some friends, and he's like, "Hey, you want to buy part of a baseball team? Any team? Didn't have to be Cubs based." And he's like, "Yeah, why not?"
So, fun question. If you had the opportunity to have a stake in a baseball team, major or minor, or any kind of sport that has the same thing, would you invest your money into it? It'd be kind of cool to say, right?
Oh yeah, I probably would.
It's one step ahead of saying I own stock in Apple, but you have literally one share. Because I
It's
can't.
true. Like
I can't
if I
stand
could
that.
own 0.5% of a single A minor league baseball team in Montana or whatever, I'd be like, "Yep, I'm the owner of the Montana, I don't know, Moose, whatever you want to call them. I don't know. I have to look up. I don't think we've covered a
Montana Mules?
Montana-based minor league team, but yeah,
But I think that'd be much cooler because here's the thing. You're playing the game, right? Think about it this
Yeah.
way, because you're giving them your monies just to see the team. Might as well give them your monies to pay the team
right.
directly. That I don't
And
say
you
the
get
lingo
the
a lot.
access.
Yeah,
That's what people like.
It's a boss move, man, as the kids
Yeah.
would say.
You get the access. You get to hang out at the baseball field all day if you want to. Just go down to the locker room. I mean, some people hate on Mark Cuban, But honestly, if you were an
Oh, I'd
owner,
do it in a
wouldn't
heartbeat.
you want to do that?
And especially if you're an owner of a team that you love. I mean, Jordan, when you think about it, dick owner, great player, but he made sure to bring back, the Charlotte Hornets. That's his thing.
Yeah.
That was the affiliation. I would give probably both my testicles to own stake in the Yankees. So I get it, man. That'd be the coolest
yeah.
thing.
Oh yeah, no,
I'll
yeah.
just
Single share. I mean, Derek Jeter, our Lord and Savior. It's
he's
like
a biracial angel.
yeah, he's a biracial angel. He understands the struggle that's going on right now, and he like the Marlins were up for sale. And he and a bunch of other guys, they got together, and he's probably thinking, yeah, let's go. He didn't care. He probably didn't care if it was the Marlins or if it was the Yankees or if anybody else. He was like, I'm going to go down to Miami and get it done.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on. I mean, A-Rod wants to buy the Mets. Imagine that.
Oof. Yeah, that's
going to be a mess.
Different. It's different with Jeter because there's that whole calming reassurance. Plus, Jeter can kind of handle the criticism well. I don't imagine A-Rod could do it as an owner.
Right.
Because A-Rod wasn't bad with the media, but when the steroid stuff came out, he just kind of – you can tell he took some acting classes. That's what I'll keep to it. Because as a player, when he was being criticized –
he currently has a PR firm at this moment directing everything he does. Because – he came out with something like that the players should play, and a lot of players hated him for that right now, and he shut up after that. So there is somebody, behind the scenes telling her, shut up right now. Don't say anything about the labor thing. Just shut up. You notice Derek Jeter's name hasn't come out with regards to he's an owner now. He's on the other side, but the only thing you hear about him is, hey, we're going to keep paying the minor league players. And they haven't let go of any minor league players, so it's like, Jeter knows his stuff.
A-Rod gave bad names to players.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and that's what he doesn't understand. And he's a handsome, charismatic, well-spoken guy. He's going to have a successful post-career, but, Jeter has... And it was weird because talking as a Yankee fan, I'm like, hey, this is always kind of the same, the comparison even now, right? Post ownership and all that stuff. There was always a different way of how you carried yourself, and you're not the most loved person because you were basically creating a bidding war. At that time, he was the only guy seeing that kind of astronomical amount of money. You gotta remember that. He was telling he was telling Mariners no, and then he told Texans no, or the Rangers no, and then he was just he knew he wanted to go to New York, but we were kind of sweating it out a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then he was kind of like just tickling with the Red Sox for a while, and then he did it again, announcing his free agency during the World Series, I think in, correct me if I'm wrong, 06, 07? Or was it 05? One of them. It's been so many years, we're old, right? But he wasn't most
the
loved.
Yankees had to re-sign him after he got traded from Texas.
Yeah, and then came then just came all the controversy of the steroids, and he wasn't really contrite. He was just kind of like, I'm just going to be gone for a bit. And then he came back and he played well. And then, remember, we pushed him out, too, because we did.
At the end, 2016.
Because now we were just kind of like, well, we got to favor this guy. Out of all the Yankees who contributed, he got the most unceremonious ending ever.
Yeah, because at that point, because you said your goodbye to Mariano, you said your goodbye to Jorge, you said your goodbye to Andy Pettitte, Bertie Williams, and then finally Derek Jeter at the end. And I was like, it is complete now. A-Rod's still here.
Terrible sensation. But bringing it back.
And A-Rod had his moments. He hit 3,000 that season when he got pushed out. And he had a home run for his 3,000th hit, but it wasn't the same like when Jeter hit it.
There was more emotion. Plus, Jeter had the seminal proper end game in Boston, getting that game-winning run in, if I remember correctly from my old age.
No, it was the one against the Orioles, right? Well, that was his last Yankee Stadium one.
Yeah, I'm talking about just last appearance.
He got his last ever base hit, I think, or something. Yeah.
It's been a while. And here's the thing. I'll give credit to people who know sports like that off the top of their head because each year there's always a new memory. Each year there's a new add-on. So for me, it's tough, especially if we're not going to have baseball this year. But bringing it back, I lost my train of thought. But Derek Jeter, you are the Marlins Lord and Savior. You're my biracial angel. We love you. Come join the show. Follow us on Twitter, Sports Goofs, FJOJR, Dan Frijoles for Andrew's not here, and Charles the True. A-Rod, I'll whore myself out to your following. Go ahead and follow us too. It's okay.
So let me just finish my thoughts on Fort Myers, and then we'll move on to we'll close out with your cage. A couple more facts out here. Between 1989 and 1991, the Mighty Muscles, or at the time the Miami Miracle, they had moved out of aging Miami Stadium, and they played their home games at FIU Stadium. So FIU Baseball Stadium are one of our alma maters. And Key West High School, they played some games down there too. And Pompano Beach Municipal Stadium, which has since been torn down in Pompano Beach. So they kind of moved around a bit before finally moving to Fort Myers. So they play at Hammond Stadium, spring training complex for the Twins. They also share with the Rookie League Gulf Coast Twins there. And it's named after William Hammond Jr., who lured the Twins away from Orlando. So Andrew's not here to hear that. The Twins were playing spring training in Orlando before, and they moved to Fort Myers, the nice fancy building. The facade of the building is made to resemble Churchill Downs in Kentucky, where the Kentucky Derby is held. And their dimensions of the field are not exactly like the one they have in Target Field in Minnesota, but one of their practice fields does have the exact dimensions of their home baseball field. And that's it. That's all I got for the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles. And this would have been their inaugural season under this name, but the minor league baseball season has been canceled until next year. So we'll have to wait till next year to get some Mighty Muscles baseball. That's it. That's all I got. So, Charles, yeah, you get to take over, my dude.
All right. As I promised, it's going to be kind of lengthy. Not too lengthy, but lengthy enough, right? Just right. It's just like the Three Little Bears and the bedsides. This is the porridge that you want. You just want, right? So welcome everybody to your weekly Truplex, The Cage with Charles. You know, this is where we kind of come in, we sit down, we see our minds, and we wonder about what a universe would be when Vince McMahon's not running the WWE, and there's parody and other competitions going on. Wait, there is some competition going on. AEW, Impact's coming back. Why? Because as we progress with this whole COVID, Corona, CV stuff, there's going to be opportunities to bring back more wrestling because New Zealand has seemingly eliminated some of the COVID concerns, so they might open up back up. New Japan's going to do stuff, but before we go to that, I figure I'd change the intro a little bit, right? Just for fun, since Andrew's not here, just to kind of derail it and give the anxiety. What do we know about wrestling? It is scripted. It's not fake. It is poetry in motion. It's a ballet about men and women chasing championships, friends betraying each other. People just want to beat the holy hell out of each other, Francisco. And boy, oh boy, was there some holy hell beating out of each other. Because as I left you guys off last week, NXT, the third brand on WWE, the developmental brand, tune in Wednesdays at 8 p.m., had their pay-per-view.
Yes, and okay, so I was, when that happened, I was fooling around on Periscope, and a certain Triple H was watching it, and you could kind of watch it with him, which is kind of weird. But
yeah,
they had their kind of social media thing going, and I watched a little bit of that. It was interesting. It's kind of weird, kind of sitting there with him, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I love me some NXT pay-per-views. I think that's where the best quality matches come from the WWE. You have your typical headliners. This one was themed as In Your House. So the backstory is that the In Your Houses used to be the pay-per-views from 20 years ago, hell, almost 30 years ago. God, what are we, 2020? Yeah, I mean, in a couple of years, it'll be 30 years from now. So there's some notable In Your Houses. I think they had the first casket match in there. They had the Canadian Stampede. I think that's when the Hart Foundation went against Stone Cold Steve Austin and his buddies. So they kind of brought it back. They even got the original guy, Tom something, I forgot his name, I'll get back to original, to do announcements. They had a They had some of the wrestlers kind of doing like their old gear, old impressions for the old commercials. They had the set attire for it to kind of look like the old in your house, like the actual house coming into it. I think Johnny Gargano, when he was coming out of his match, comes in with Doc Hendricks in the ground, also known as Michael P.S. Hayes, and just changes thermostat, goes in. So they have fun with it. Wrestling's still kind of awkward without an audience, but what they've been doing in the WWE at least has been planting NXT talents and guys who are in the Performance Center and gals in the Performance Center to kind of play off the crowd. I don't like it as much, Francisco, because you're taking away the emotion and you're making actually fan reaction be more scripted than it should be. Granted, fan reaction is super scripted. It's on the nose, really. You know, if you're in Chicago, you're going to get them shouting CM Punk, who is a wrestler they just cannot get off of that hype train. Listen, I'm weird with CM Punk. I've only seen a few matches from him, mostly when he won WWE championships. Little backstory on him: wrestler, Ring of Honor, won many Ring of Honor championships. Came onto the WWE. I didn't really get to see much of him because that's when I was off into the world of non-wrestling. I actually got back into wrestling during law school, but I knew of him. You know, there was stuff I knew, but people would love him to death, and he had his moniker Best in the World. Now, mind you, with the WWE Network, they now have a free version, so for those who hear me out, Vince, I'm doing you a solid, man. You can watch CM Punk wrestling matches and see what the hype is. I mean, I've seen some stuff from him. I don't mind it, but the whole basis is Chicago, because he's a Chicago guy, they'll shout CM Punk, and it kind of carried over to other crowds because when they don't like certain faces or heels, they'll shout CM Punk. I think it's rather obnoxious. It's almost as obnoxious as the crowd going whatever every time somebody has a mic. That being said, it's weird when it's a plant for me. Plants being someone who's placed in to do a certain thing. To say cheer or shout, you can shout the wrestler's name, but if they're saying this is awesome or they're saying some other things or catchphrases, I'm like, it takes away, because that's really your connectivity to your crowd. When you have an actual crowd saying this is awesome, or you have a crowd saying holy bleep, or when a big spot happens, or when Bray Wyatt's on, they'll shout yowie wowie. That's the ultimate connection. That's how you know you did it. And I feel like these people who are paid, and I feel bad for them because they've had to stay up. They had to stand still for the tapings and for the pay-per-views, and then Raw and SmackDown and NXT. But it felt weird, and I'd rather they just don't continue with the crowd. It doesn't stop me, and me and my buddy have discussed it. He's like, I'm not going to watch wrestling. There's no fans. I'm like, well, the fans add to it, but you can appreciate the movie. This is how I've explained to it. It's like watching a foreign language movie, but it's like martial arts or an action movie where you can appreciate the action. You don't know what they're saying, but if you have the subtitles, it adds on. But yet I can still watch Ong Bak, or I can still watch Hero featuring Jet Li, or a Police Story, one of the Jackie Chan movies that aren't dubbed, right? That I used to love, like the other night, Super Cop. I can watch those and still appreciate for the action and the intensity, because wrestlers can convey that emotion. I might know what the hell's being said because it's a different dialect, but I can still view it for what it is. So I'm still on the fence of it, of having like plants, people who are employed by WWE to have the crowd reactions. Not crazy about it. Whatever. The matches themselves.
Yeah, it's so was it disingenuous? It's so like you want a genuine reaction when you have people that are there, but they're not really there for the right reasons, or they weren't some guy that paid his ticket, went in, didn't know what to expect, and has genuine, honest reactions.
And what kills me is they have them wearing their shirts and everything. So you'll have like this one wrestler wearing a Keith Lee shirt.
They might as well have been like the fake crowds that you see in the video games.
It really is, and it does feel like that. But that aside, the matches were pretty good. What I'm finding is that half of this roster needs to be called up now. Called up being to be put to Raw and SmackDown. It's kind of tough because of the times, because we're not having that mass interplay, but you're seeing a lot of the repeat people. But that's not really an issue of the pay-per-view. They still have better matches than what you'll get on the main roster pay-per-views. Highlights of the match, I was pleasantly surprised by the 6-woman tag team match. It was Shotzi Blackheart versus... They all teamed up, so 3 versus 3. Shotzi Blackheart, Tegan Knox, and Mia Yim versus Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, and Raquel Gonzalez. It was a story within a story because Mia Yim was feuding with Candice LeRae. because their men are fighting each other too, and then the other women were feuding against each other for months and months. And so I felt that it was a good, quick, fun pace because I was like, it's probably going to be sluggish. Damian Priest versus Finn Balor was my favorite match of the night. Those boys went at it. For two 30-year-old men, they have like the stamina and cardio of like a 25-year-old man because they kept going. The match was aggressive. There was a good story pseudo being told where Damian Priest was just keeping attacking the back of Finn Balor. He was side slamming along the steps. He tried to get the steel steps out there to throw him on. I wasn't crazy about his ring attire because it was weird, but Finn came in as this aggressive, energetic man. They told a very, I see booty shaking on the Twitter fear, but yeah,
I might have stopped for a little bit on that one.
I think we all did, and we appreciate you. But it was good back and forth. It was a good David versus Goliath, but David doesn't have a slingshot. David's got an Uzi because Finn Balor is that intense. They made Damian Priest look like a monster in losing. It ended when he was trying to go for a Razor's Edge / Outsider's Edge because Damian Priest is a big Scott Hall guy, so he does one of his moves, his finishers there as a homage to him. And Finn was able to slip out, and then he hit Damian on the outside, and Damian Priest and Finn Balor. I was like 4.5, and I'm looking at ESPN. They love Keith Lee versus Johnny Gargano. It started slow. They had Johnny kind of being the kind of crap heel that he should be. It's weird because he's been a babyface for so long, but you gotta try something new, right? And I do like he has a very punchable face, so I'm behind it. Told the story of Keith Lee's eye being injured. His hand was busted up from Johnny Gargano, and you almost felt like that Johnny was gonna win. And Johnny's a small man. Great technical wrestler. Some people say he's bland vanilla, but people like to hate things. That the internet wrestling community is a very toxic environment where we just can't have nice things, right? It's like The Office. After season 3, the best is really gone. Season 4 and 5 are good in quality and sometimes very great, very good and great. Season 6 is whatever season 7 is. Pretty good, and then Mike leaves, and then season 8 is just really kind of bad, and season 9 is good because it comes back into it, but you appreciate the little spurts of it. That's how I'll quit wrestling. I never thought I could put the two of them together, though I just did, so hey, yay me. So it was interesting. There was good bumps in there. There was a point where Keith Lee just totally shoulder tackled Johnny Gargano through the plexiglass that they had in there. He put a beating on Johnny. Johnny did this amazing through the ropes DDT on the outside. That was just so impressive to me. You see the setting in the background. It was used a bit. More importantly, big ups to Keith Lee because on his trunks on his back, it says Black Lives Matter. He's a black man, African American. I don't know how he identifies himself, but it's kind of, I won't say it's dangerous. I think you have to know who owns the WWE, and Vince McMahon, his wife, person support of Black Lives Matter to being anti-Trump. It just seems to be that way. So I'm not trying to connect pieces of the puzzle that don't fit. I'm just saying that they might fit, right? I don't know how Keith Lee might feel towards it, but I think that's a great because wrestling, you get blackballed. I'm gonna say that, and then shot down because Vince McMahon didn't like you. And sometimes that expression comes in. Now, mind you, Triple H oversees NXT. Vince doesn't really. Politics is a weird game, man, where just having an opinion that's outside of what your bosses is, can lead to that downplay. Mind you, you wouldn't want Keith Lee to leave. The guy's been your hottest star in NXT for a while. But good ups for him because sometimes the message matters, and it's something always directed. So that's true power into it. Velveteen Dream versus Adam Cole for the NXT Championship. Backlot Brawl. With the stipulation that Keith Lee, you can always follow me on Twitter, buddy. Been loving you since you come to the Fort Pierce stuff at live events. Very happy you're there. Follow us on Twitter, Sports Goofs. That's just my shout out to them. Keith Lee, I'm going to my mind. Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream, NXT Championship, Backlot Brawl. Condition. He's a big boy, man. Like, he used to play defensive tackle, I believe, at one of the colleges, so I wouldn't want to beat me up. Don't beat me up. So the stipulation was if Velveteen lost, he wouldn't get another title shot, so that made people think that he was going to get called up if he lost. The match was okay. I don't like the cinematic matches except for the AJ Styles Undertaker Boneyard match and Bray Wyatt versus John Cena because that was a different kind of road trip there. Andrew could attest to it. They did the best that they could, but it still took place in a ring and then outside a ring and wasn't as violent as it should have been. Adam Cole won, so Velveteen Dream cannot challenge for the championship as long as Adam Cole has the belt. There's some controversy because it's gotten a little stale with Adam Cole as main champion. I appreciate his talents. I love me some Adam Cole, baby. I have a shirt of his. I also have a Velveteen Dream shirt. But you need new challengers, and the expectation when you put a great condition like that, of cannot challenge it as long as this person's still champion still, you'd think that they're going to win. It did not happen. Velveteen came out like Negan from The Walking Dead. Big ups on that. But I felt it could have been a little bit more brutal. There's a spot where Adam Cole went through a glass windshield in front of a car, but it was tape, so it goes from there. My problem with the cinematic matches is that we go from I'll keep this portion as PG. Some matches play out like it's a Scorsese movie, and then sometimes it feels like a porno, where it's just quick shots to everybody's face. And I think I'll just implore you to watch the link so you can just go from there. But it was like hurting my eyes. Like, Jesus, Men of Crowley, what the hell? So I couldn't go into it. Mind you, I think one of the reasons why Velveteen lost was because of the controversy around him. There's allegations that he may have revealed his genitals to a minor on Instagram or one of the social media stuff, not knowing. That's up for them to figure out. But I would and this was a couple weeks ago, but I would venture if it was to happen, then that's probably why he lost. But if he really did do it, he'd probably be released and it would never be heard of again. There's ways you have to think. I thought the best bet to go was have Adam Cole win and have Keith Lee actually drop the belt to Johnny Gargano so Keith Lee can challenge Adam Cole, baby, and beat him for the NXT championship. That's solidifying that. But who knows? Pay-per-view debut for Karrion Kross was Scarlett against Tommaso Ciampa. It was not a long match, but it was the match it needed to be because Karrion Kross, also known as Killer Kross from Impact Wrestling and his Indies tours, is a freaking animal. Guy's like 6'4", 260 plus pounds of lean muscle, comes in with the most intensity in his eyes. Tommaso Ciampa was the right guy to feud with him because I think it might be time to call up Ciampa. Granted, I don't know how much leg work he has left because he's 36. He's had the knee injury. He had the neck injury. Maybe he wants to keep it easier in NXT and then transition to producer. I don't know. Sometimes you don't know what your fate's going to be. I don't know if he can contribute much, but he's not a bland man. I mean, his whole concept is being a psycho killer. It's great, in that sense with a persona, even though it'll get PG down. Karrion Kross, though, his entrance is fire. His woman is fire. I'm about his look. He scares the absolute crap out of me. You have a good wrestler. Me and my buddy talk about it. You have a good wrestler if you're going down that ring, or if you're going down a street, like, I wouldn't mess with that guy. Brock Lesnar, I would not even walk on the same street. If that was my only way home, I would just, go to Burger King until I see that big man just pass by, and I go to my room. That's how you know the effect of it. Karrion Kross.
Giant, massive muscle coming at you.
Well, have you seen Brock Lesnar?
Yes.
I wouldn't even ask him, to borrow his cell phone if I was, lost. I would just it's all right, man. Probably a sweet guy, but hell to the nah. But Karrion Kross, real name Kevin Kazar, because I kind of like that name too. So I was like, why don't you just call yourself Kazar? That's cool. I don't know how you pronounce it. He didn't tap out Ciampa. He just destroyed him. Ciampa had his little bit of a run towards it, and then the animal was just too much, and he just choked him out. And I was like, all right, because you need to build new stars. I really think, forget trying to have Adam Cole rehash against new people, or not new people, but people of old. Just have him lose the belt to Karrion Kross. You already know you have a good product. I think it'll work when the crowd comes back, because that's kind of the concern too. These new introductions, Timothy Thatcher, and Karrion Kross, you don't know how they are because there's no crowd, so you know what they're going to connect to. It's also the same kind of chance you take when you put titles on people who never would have had a chance with the crowd to begin with, such as Apollo Crews on the main roster of the U.S. Championship, because you're giving them an opportunity to actually display what they could do now. But I think he's going to be a star. I think he's probably only going to be on the developmental brand for about a year, and they'll get called up along with Scarlett. The entrance is cool. I'll send you a YouTube link. Main event time.
Good Lord.
Women's, look, I mean, that's a statement, right? Above Keith Lee and his Black Lives Matter, like, that's just an animal. And, he kind of reminds me, I don't know if you ever watched Sons of Anarchy, but he has that face from Juice, I think it was his name. I don't remember, but he had the tattoos on it. Bald guy. Frick, I forgot his name. But he also plays Shades on Luke Cage. But he's just, and I feel like that picture doesn't do justice. Because here's the thing, Francisco. I've seen some of these guys live because they'll come into local NXT before it went on USA. It would go do the local house shows. So it'll be at the Fern Center, and in Miami they'll have some stuff too. So it's a small little gym, and then you get to see the guy live. Keith Lee is massive. I have seen him in person. Damian Priest is massive. Like, their genitals are on top of my head in that height, man. Like, they're big people. So it's like, holy crap. So, sometimes it's just not that. There's more to them. Like, they sell the part. And I think if you're proposing as Karrion Kross as being this monster, he has the look of it, whereas some people don't, because looks are deceiving. Main event, triple threat match: Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, Io Shirai, NXT Women's Championship. What do we know is that even though I'm burnt out on Charlotte Flair because I think she needs to create a new character, I at least know she can create a good match. Her match with Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania was probably the best match, even though I do have a lot of love for Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens going against each other, but they showed up. Charlotte won that title. She's been going down to NXT and defending it. Io Shirai was competition for her, and then she got herself disqualified to retain her belt. They put the stipulations. It was fine. Like, if Charles had to do a rating scale, I gave it like a 3.75. People were calling a 4.25. There's always, in a triple threat, especially with a high flyer, there's a weird kind of like standstill that kind of comes into it. So there was a good spot where Yo's on top of that house, and then she cross bodies onto Charlotte and Rhea. But then I think about Zack Sabre, who was originally the British Pro Revolution champion in New Japan, saying like, people should just move out of the way if you see somebody climbing. They won't come down to get you. So it makes me kind of laugh. The end was controversial, not in a bad way, but to set up feuds for Charlotte in the future or for Rhea, because Io Shirai won the title. Charlotte had Rhea Ripley in the figure eight. It looked like she was about to tap, and then Io went and did her moonsault. She's the genius of the sky, the evil of the sky, whatever they call her, because she's technically a heel, but she's kind of like that heel who's a face now. Meaning she's the bad person who's really like a good person now. She ends up hitting the moonsault on Rhea, knocks her out basically. Like, it was a bad spot. I think her thigh or her knee actually connected with Rhea's face. It was kind of gruesome. And then it's the 1, 2, 3. Io wins. I'm very happy that Io won or Io won, however you say her name. Io won because I think she is a talent, seeing her live too. I just have concerns about Rhea because she was supposed to be like a consistency in the women's division, but you have her drop the NXT division or women's championship to a non-NXT member in Charlotte, and now she's the one who ate the pin in the main event. So whatever, but what was good, it was the main event for the night, and it should have been the main event, to be honest with you. So overall it was a good pay-per-view, but the participants are getting stale because you have like, this was Ciampa's like 12th or 13th takeover. This was Finn Balor's like 13th takeover. Mind you, that was him on the main roster. Now he's back. Johnny Gargano's X amount takeover. You gotta call up the old blood, Vince, and you gotta let the new blood shine. You gotta see what works. You didn't even have the tag team titles defended, so Imperium wasn't defending. You could have had a ghost match or a dark match with him and Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. You got to do something with it, right? Because you need to solidify your division because you're lacking in certain spots. You got to build the stars. You got to go from there. Pushing forward to the main roster. Backlash is this Sunday, and I'll keep it brief because I'm not really big on this pay-per-view, Francisco, because summer pay-per-views, there's always a cool-down period between post-WrestleMania leading to SummerSlam. SummerSlam is supposed to be in August. We'll see if that happens, but Backlash has some matches I might care about. Like, I think Edge versus Randy Orton, even though it's not going to be the greatest wrestling match ever.
Now I'm watching this Keith Lee. That guy, he's a big dude.
Yeah, that's a big boy.
Yeah.
Remember, Vince McMahon doesn't want wrestlers. Vince McMahon wants guys who can convince other guys in sports to come jump ship. Keith Lee, to my knowledge, played defense in college at like 6'1", 300 plus. It's essentially like you just got Vince Wilfork or Richard Seymour to come play for you. Brock Lesnar, what do you think he was doing? He was doing professional, actual real wrestling.
He played at Texas A&M.
Yeah, so like actually a reputable college football program too. So you bring in more of those guys. Vince wants Conor McGregor, Ronda. People who can transition the sports or mix it up. It's always going to be the eye on the prize. And then you get the wrestlers to teach these guys how to do these things. That's the way it is, right? Back to Backlash, really briefly on that one. Edge and Randy, they taped it already, so they fixed out whatever boo-boos. I think it could be a good match, but you need something to come from it. So if Randy wins, let him challenge Drew McIntyre for the title. If Edge wins, let him go feud with Seth, or let him just do his own thing. I don't know. Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. I think part of the problem is Drew would have benefited his title run from having. We're going to see what happens. Is this even a feud that you can extend past 1 month? They might, because MVP, who's kind of been playing as Bobby's manager, has been helping out, but I'm just not into it. I think they might have a good Haas match, but if they try to go too technical, then I think it loses momentum. Braun Strowman versus Miz and John Morrison in a handicap match for the Universal Championship. I think it's all just a play to get Bray Wyatt back involved. Remember, they had their Money in the Bank match. He wasn't the Fiend. He was just Bray. And I think what's going to happen is there's going to be some tomfoolery to bring the Fiend in, because he also has history with the Miz, too, because they wrestled each other at TLC. So not the Fiend, but as Bray. And it's two different characters. That's how I have to distinguish it. So there might be something there. Asuka versus Nia Jax, questionable. Right, because Nia's been beating up a lot of people. Asuka needs this win. I don't think Nia's going to win, but on Raw, Charlotte and Asuka went out for about a good 20 minutes, and then Charlotte won, because Charlotte always wins against Asuka. Granted, Nia interfered, so it keeps everything clean, but I'm thinking they might go to a feud down the line of Charlotte versus Asuka, and the story you tell is Asuka finally conquers that mountain, because she can never really beat Charlotte, especially when the title's online. This time she'll be defending. Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus. They have some beef going on. Let them continue it. I'm not really big on Vince using Jeff's drug and alcohol addictions and the rest of the past as a proponent of the stories. But whatever. I guess the relatability is that this is a guy who suffered and is going for redemption. It's the antithesis of an underdog story, and sometimes you can't make every person the underdog, right? So sometimes you have to have that remorseful, redeeming guy in quality. It's not for a title. It's just a basic feud at this point. So let's see what happens. Women's triple threat tag team, not about it, because they had Bayley and Sasha just win the belts on Friday. So are you going to break them up, not break them up? That's what you might kind of been doing. I don't care anything for the match. Apollo Crews versus Andrade. I would hope that they can knock it out of the park. The work's been kind of fine. I'm ready for Andrade to get that main event scene. So that's one thing. I'm very happy for Apollo. Let him run the title. Fans might not like him, but you know what? This is the opportunity to place the titles on people that don't normally have the belt, because the crowds are too, fickle. Speaking of fickle, SmackDown, Friday, Intercontinental Championship Finals. AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan for the vacant Intercontinental Championship, because Sami Zayn was originally champion, and then, with the COVID stuff happened, guess what? Couldn't necessarily travel. He doesn't feel safe, whatever. They're saying it's an injury. There's some backstage politics on that. It's going to be a hell of a match. Bryan's probably going to win, because I anticipate AJ is going to challenge Otis for that Money in the Bank contract. You see, that's the thing. Wrestling is a story, Francisco. It's connected. So that's my part of WWE. I'll say really briefly, because everything else is kind of dried up. New Japan Pro Wrestling is going to start doing the wrestling again over in Japan. They're going to do it streamed through their New Japan Tour or whatever they have, their little app. I'm excited just because I need a little bit of variety, because they left off as a victim of circumstances, because they just had Naito his win. He had his double titles. He went against Kenta in a pretty good match. New Japan, if you want wrestling, watch New Japan. If you want entertainment, maybe you got WWE. And then AEW is somewhere in the in-between, where I'm not sold on Chris Jericho versus Mike Tyson. I love me some Chris Jericho. Love him. Love Le Champion. This is not... You don't need to... You do it when you're more established. You know what I mean?
They're throwing out the gimmicky kind of thing.
Yeah. I think year 2, year 3, when you're fully established and stuff like that, for many reasons, but that's just me. But New Japan, as you see on the screen, they're doing the New Japan Cup. Super, the heavyweights and lightweights can be able to contribute to. It's going to be for title shots. This is good, because as much as I've enjoyed some of the wrestling that's been on the WWE, a lot of it either has the weirdest stipulations, or they'll have the BS disqualifications. For New Japan Wrestling, it's basically let's just beat the holy hell out of each other for 35 minutes. Put on a show and tell the story in the ring. There's no entertainment aspect. Hell, a lot of them kind of not good at delivering promos. Part of it, obviously, because of the language barrier, but even the English-speaking guys can't necessarily sell me all the time. But I'll be interested in seeing what happens, because I love me some parody in this world. And right now with AEW, all I got for you right now is that they're going to do Fyter Fest at some point in July. Moxley's going to challenge Brian Cage. Or actually, let me rephrase that. Brian Cage is going to challenge Jon Moxley for his AEW championship. I think Best Friends is going to go against Kenny Omega and Adam Hangman Page. Everything in between is just trying to keep my attention span to watch on Wednesdays. And I'd rather watch NXT to see the fallout of TakeOver versus just, oh, hey, is Chris Jericho going to call out Mike Tyson again? Unless we just bring in, let's have fun with it. Let's just bring in some dude. They should just throw money at all the guys and be like, hey, Evander, come back here. Like, let's do this. Let's have Evander Holyfield teams up with Le Champion versus Mike Tyson and somebody else that goes on and someone bites somebody's ear off. Like, let's just go all in. If we're going to go ridiculous, Francisco, all in. Straight up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. If we're going to go
that's
ridiculous,
all I got for you,
let's go
Gage.
ridiculous. But I'll tell you this about having Mike Tyson there. It's got me intrigued. I have liked Mike Tyson's transformation, trying to repairing his image. I, of course, like Mike Tyson Mysteries on Adult Swim. A weird show, but it's the type of weird that I'm into. So, Mike Tyson in a wrestling match, even at, I don't know how old he is now. He's probably in his 50s or something. I'm all for it.
So.
I'd be down to watch. That's what I'd be going for. So.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what. One of the things that WCW made fantastic was getting the cross-brand stars, because I will always remember Hollywood Hulk Hogan teaming up with Dennis Rodman versus DDP and Karl Malone.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it works and the match wasn't good. You got a few body slams.
Yeah.
But so what? You're sports entertained, right? This is what me and my buddy talk about. Sometimes you have a good wrestling match, and sometimes you're thoroughly sports entertained. And possibly, if we have some people getting their ears bitten off, Jericho, I will be thoroughly sports entertained.
Oh, yeah. I remember when that happened to Karl Malone wrestling. Oof.
Oh, my. But I tell you.
I remember great. That happening, and here it is. It's a little bit of it in the background. There they are.
I mean, listen.
Rodman
was committed.
I don't care.
Yeah, it happens. But Rodman.
But it is pretty funny how this circumstance. So, did you hear about the LA Galaxy player who got let go by his team? Because his wife.
Because of his wife, right?
Yes, she made some. It's a Tia Katai. There we go. I think that's the name of his wife. Okay, Alexander Katai, that's the name of the dude. He was let go by the Los Angeles Galaxy. His wife made some very strong messages with regards to the protesters going on right now in Los Angeles. And it was very racial and violent, and so people called for the LA Galaxy to let go of the player, because like he's from Serbia, and people were like, well, if his wife feels those feelings, then the player has got to, which may or may not be a thing. Maybe this is the first time it's happened. He's just as surprised as everyone else. We'll see what the downfall of that marriage goes, especially when your wife gets you cut from an MLST, which is pretty low in regards to the rungs of ladders of the hierarchy of soccer. So if you're playing in the MLS, you're definitely not going to get picked up by somebody in Europe in those higher leagues. You probably have to go back to Serbia and play soccer there. And yeah, he got let go because of that. But according to, I guess, people who know soccer, he wasn't having a good season last year. So it was kind of like, yeah, let's just cut our losses anyways. Let's just get rid of this guy. He's not really worth the hassle of doing this, whether or not he has the same views as his wife. But she's the goon for getting her husband fired.
Yeah, that divorce is gonna be interesting. But yeah, guy's wife, because I can't pronounce that name because I am not a good speaker sometimes. You're a goon just because you ruined it. It's probably going to cost more in a divorce than what they were paying you as your salary anyway.
Yeah. So she's she got him fired. So that's my goon. That's all I got for him.
All right. Well, on that note, let's close it out.
Yeah, we're closing it out. Real MVP, people, I know it's going to be fast, but people who are taking care of us during the coronavirus crisis, and people who are speaking out on reforms for certain parts of our society. It is your right to do so. That's why, in the United States at least, you can have the ability to do so. And if you're exercising it, good. Hopefully, you're doing it in a constructive manner, in a safe manner, and in a manner that will lead to actual change rather than spewing off your grievances and not taking any steps to actually resolve the issue and find some answers, because we can all spew all of our issues and grievances, but what are we doing to get us to move forward and get better? So that's all I got to say about that. So people who are doing that, and there are a lot of you out there who are, whether they're lawyers, whether they're politicians, whether they are just people, normal everyday people who are suddenly have been emboldened by this. Get down to work and let's do some good, please. And those are my real MVPs. That's what I've got.
Aside from our typical, first responders, doctors, nurses, and all that stuff, actual people, everybody telling Roger Goodell to suck it for saying that, athletes, most importantly, in the NFL, saying, hey, at least acknowledge what the issue wasn't about the flag, but it was about, the social injustice, because he was a big proponent with the two owners, Robert and Jerry, twisting his arm to make it seem like that led to Kaepernick's blackball. So I think even Malcolm Jenkins said, hey, you need to acknowledge the situation with Kaepernick of what you guys did and given the opportunity. Granted, it's all stale milk anyway, because at 32 years old, it's not like he's going to be able to come back in full shape or form, but to at least say we did wrong by
Vinny Testaverde was like on a team when he was 40 years old, so
he was with the Carolina Panthers, baby.
Yeah.
But it's the concept of it, because call them out, hold him accountable, because he was kind of and because here's the thing, it's not even just on how he conducted Kaepernick. Roger Goodell, since he's been in it as a commissioner, has had very flimsy policies that are very wishy-washy, that are not. And here's the thing, sometimes we like hardline policies, sometimes we don't, but you should at least not make exceptions and punishments as you figure out. You look at what happened to Roethlisberger, you look at what happened to Adrian Peterson, you look out to what happened to Ray Rice. It was just so much disparity. You need consistency sometimes. You look at how they basically blackballed out Justin Blackman, but Josh Gordon gets all these chances. Not that I'm saying that Justin Blackman deserves the lead, but you know where I'm coming from when I say you can't pick and choose how you want to deliver your punishments and go, oh, it's okay. You're a commissioner. Yes, you make money, but your determinations have a slight bias, and there's an agenda, and I don't think that's actually helping out the hands that are reaching out for your services. Also, props to Adrian Peterson. He's like, oh yeah, we're definitely gonna kneel during the national anthem just to give a middle finger to him. Like, yeah, Keith Lee. My whole point that I said earlier, I'll bring it back in there, because sometimes you have to use a platform. And what better way of doing platform when you have all eyes on you, right? You got to kind of keep that going. So that was always something on my brain. I'll even give to Drew Brees. I know where he was coming from. I know there was some controversy that come into people when he initially set flags. I mean, I get it, but it's the idea of this is bigger than you and bigger on the concept of flag. And then to have the mea culpa moment, he actually seems contrite. I'm sure he'll talk to his teammates, stuff like that, but also a certain president said, oh, you're going to do this? And he's like, I'm going to do what I want. You need to focus on this. That's a clapback. That's a clapback. And I know we sent memes on it, but here's the thing that people need to realize, that even though we might be elevating, gratifying players that have a misunderstanding, there's players who have the misunderstanding that won't even have the cojones to do and say, to change the 180, say, yeah, I messed up, and also go to somebody who's considered a forefront in their position and say, you're wrong, right? So it takes a little chutzpah. So I'll even give it to you, Drew. I'll give it to you a little bit. Just a little bit. So that's all I got, man.
Okay. All right, so that's it. This is our 67th. We'll have 68. And I feel like we need to take a little break, let the sports news kind of bubble up, let things, we'll have more definite stuff, and then we'll take a break. We'll officially end season 3 and we'll hit season 4 with our 69th episode and make it as nice as possible.
Yep.
For now,
super nice.
Yeah, super nice. And thank you to Bug Fables and Age of Wonders for actually giving us the 0.00001 cents that they are giving us for today and using our space. And yeah, I might actually buy Bug Fables now that I'm thinking about it. Every day, increasingly more, I'm reading reviews and I'm like, this might be it. I might need a Paper Mario knockoff to quench my thirst.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. I'm done. Bye-bye.
Be good.
Ball on their own 28. Jackson back to throw. Throws right. And he can't hang on to it. He dropped it.